In July 2018, Nintendo filed a lawsuit for copyright and trademark infringement against Jacob Mathias, an Arizona resident and owner of Mathias Designs LLC. Mathias owned and operated two websites, LoveRoms.com, which hosted pirated game downloads, and LoveRetro.com, which allowed users to play pirated games through the company's own web-based emulator. The most popular downloads on both sites were apparently owned by Nintendo, as per the site's own aggregated data counter. Seriously, if you're going to run an illegal business operation, maybe don't boast about how successful you are. Mathias only made it that much easier for Nintendo lawyers to calculate how much of their potential profits he'd stolen. In addition to providing downloads, for which Nintendo is seeking $150,000 per title, Mathias is also being charged for each instance one of his websites displayed a Nintendo trademark character or logo to the obscene tune of $2 million per infraction. Total damages are estimated to exceed $100 million. In short, Jacob Mathias is fucked. So fucked, in fact, that many fear Nintendo is on an anti-piracy warpath, and some ROM site operators are choosing to close shop now to avoid their own ridiculously expensive lawsuits later. And who can blame them? Lawsuits are monopoly money levels expensive, and even if the average pirate unfathomably won a case against Big N, the legal fees alone would leave them shopping for the finest cardboard frigate bankruptcy can't buy. But isn't piracy stealing? They deserved it. What's the big deal? The deal is that game copyright holders are woefully negligent at archiving their properties. In their effort to mimic the film industry's epic multi-million-dollar budgets and cinematic presentations, the game industry has also managed to repeat Hollywood's past mistakes. In the early 1900s, films were created by revolutionary storytellers, but treated as disposable product by the studio executives. A film's legacy was as lasting as its theatrical run, its images and stories as persistent as the fleeting memories of those who viewed them. Old reels of film, when stored at all, were stored poorly, and many succumbed to rotten mold. Most were simply discarded. Today, the Library of Congress estimates that 75% of all silent films have been lost to time and negligence. Some works have been reclaimed from private collections scattered around the world, but most are gone forever. Regrettably, video game studios are making the same mistakes today. Developers have come and gone, licensing agreements have expired, and copyrights are stuck in legal limbo. Some games, like the films of old, will last only as long as the physical media they're stored on, assuming they weren't digital exclusives. And that's a problem. And one that's not limited to obscure defunct companies either. In 1998, the Sega Saturn was dying. As a last epic hurrah, Sega launched the RPG that was meant to rival Final Fantasy VII in terms of scope and ambition. Except it didn't sell, and less than 130,000 copies were released worldwide. And then the unthinkable happened. Sega lost the source code. The arguably greatest RPG Sega has ever produced is in danger of becoming extinct. Of the original 130,000 copies, how many have survived? In 20 years' time, how many more copies will be lost to disk rot? How many years do we have left before every remaining copy of Panzer Dragoon Saga turns to an unplayable lump of plastic and aluminum? With the proper storage conditions, a professional archivist can extend the longevity of optical media, but not indefinitely. This is where the pirates sail to the rescue. Sega may not be making a great effort to preserve their library, but the pirates are. Illegal file sharing ensures that games are freely available to the public long after the official channels have shut down the factories and turned off the servers. These ROM files and disk images are available only because of obsessed game preservationists, a loose network of dedicated archivists who aim to back up every game they can get their hands on, every revision, every beta. While they see games as cultural artifacts, however, game companies such as Nintendo see them as intellectual property. They often protect trade secrets by destroying files of uncompleted and/or unreleased games, regardless of how historically significant these projects may have been. Occasionally, such projects are stolen by employees and leaked onto the internet. And it's not just us gamers benefiting. Last year it was discovered that Nintendo had uploaded garden variety internet ROMs to their own virtual console marketplace. One might even make the argument that the consumer hype which eventually brought us official releases of the cancelled and once unobtainable Starfox 2 and Earthbound Beginnings were fueled by their availability online. Not that Nintendo would ever admit it if they were. For years, archivists, pirates, and copyright holders coexisted in a strange sort of harmony. Legally, companies like Nintendo are obligated to guard their copyrights, but never before had Nintendo, or any other major game publisher, actually taken a piracy website to court. Sure, they'd hand out scary worded cease and desist letters and intimidate hosting companies to deactivate websites, but the stakes for getting your hand caught in the ROM-sharing cookie jar were never $100 million high. Until now. With popular sites like EmuParadise shut down, the chain of distribution is disrupted. Physical copies of out-of-print games are a finite and ever-dwindling resource. Reprints and HD remasters are not possible for a lot of titles due to complicated copyright issues and missing files. With Disney ever lobbying to extend the date of entry on public domain, will all likely be dead before abandonware becomes the cultural property of the people. Piracy for many is quite literally the only avenue for experiencing games of the past. The fear is that EmuParadise is the start of a domino effect that will make out-of-print games harder and harder to obtain. It's also possible that Nintendo won't stop the war on emulation at distribution. In the lawsuit against Jacob Mathias, they are also seeking names of the persons responsible for dumping game files, the archivists themselves. In this scenario, the only winner is Nintendo, who aims to keep the properties locked up in their Disney-inspired Nintendo vault while they eke out the occasional plug-and-play collection or limited availability digital release. Nintendo will happily keep consumers paying for the same legacy titles with each new console generation, as is their legal right. But in their mission to maintain hype and exploit wallets, they could possibly cause a ton of collateral damage. They don't care. Because Nintendo isn't your lovable Japanese grandpa Shigeru Miyamoto, or your goofy internet buddy Reggie Fils-Aimé. They are a multi-billion-dollar corporation who functions only to make their shareholders lots of money.